Hey, it's Anna from the Heartbeat Hive, and I'm continuing on this really short lesson and dive into my coaching pyramid or columns, whatever you want to call it, the basis of what I do and how I work with creative people. And as stated in the last video, I believe there are about 6 things that really influence your results, your beliefs, your behaviors, and then making sure that you reach your goals. So here's my little diagram you see right here. And in the last video, we talked about having a certain belief, which would lead to a certain behavior, and that results in a specific result. So what I wanted to do was go and provide some examples more in depth of how to use all 6 of these things: beliefs, behaviors, results, and then clarity, consistency, and commitment. And what I call this is solving for X, even though I'm not a math person. All right, so I've got my little whiteboard here. Hopefully I won't mess this up. So I'm just going to put this here again: belief, behavior, and result. I hope I spelled that right too. So in the last example, I talked about wanting to work out and like being distracted by social media. That was one example, but let's try to solve for X with this. So let's say you found yourself being really frustrated with other people. This happens, but you kind of know, like, that's not really me. I'm not really sure why that's happening, but it's happening. So that's a behavior that I've noticed that has changed or that I would like to change. So let's say you identify that it's with a specific person. And you try to figure out, okay, is this connected to a result? Or is it connected to a belief? This dealing with this specific person and why you're getting frustrated. So let's see. Let me change the color. Oh, I don't like any of those colors. How about purple? Yeah. All right. So what I would do is sit down and kind of think, okay, what is it about this person that is making me frustrated? Is it because I believe they've done something wrong? Okay, is it something like jealousy? That can happen. Is it something that is, say, you've noticed that they are inconsistent? Is that your belief? Inconsistent. Is that your belief about that person, or is that based on a few interactions? So a way to do this for yourself would be, okay, you take these aspects and you place yourself in the situation of the other person. So you flip-flop and you say, okay, if I acted like this person, how would I think that others would perceive me? And you can go even further to say, well, regardless of whether I think someone perceives me a certain way, does it feel good? Because most of the time when we experience something that is unpleasant from other people, there's just a lack of clarity for us of why we don't like it or why we've attracted it to us, or maybe even our reaction or response to it. So getting frustrated is a reaction. A response would be slowing down and either clarifying with the person or communicating clearly with them. So the example in the case of being frustrated and my belief that they are, let's say, inconsistent, because I've interacted with them a couple of times, and every time I request something, they do not deliver. So instead of getting frustrated and globalizing, which is when you put your perception or your declaration over everything, in this case it would be the total person. So that would be you saying, you know what, you're inconsistent, instead of saying, the last 3 times you have been inconsistent. So when you frame it in that way to that person, if you're going to communicate with them, at this point you're not there yet, but if you frame it as in a number, so you say, the last 3 times I have requested something, you have not delivered and or been inconsistent. That opens the door for them to have an explanation, or for you to say more clearly your expectations. So sometimes I have found when I become frustrated with someone, I actually look at these things and then I think about the person, place myself in their shoes. A lot of times it comes back to me not being clear with them about my expectations. And this happens a lot in the workplace. I thought you wanted this, so I delivered, and every time we have this meeting, you get frustrated with me. Maybe I'm not clear about what you expect me to deliver. So when you take the time to look at this in a different framework, you can also learn a little bit about yourself. So I, having worked in nonprofit management with thousands of volunteers, I take responsibility when something is not happening and there's a pattern, let's say, like in this case. I look at it and say, okay, what can I do better? Or can I be clearer? Or can I support this person to deliver what I need? Because ultimately, that's what I want. I want them to deliver what I am clarifying and communicating that I need. So how can I support them? Sometimes, it's technology. Sometimes it's clear instructions. Sometimes it's a deadline. Sometimes it's telling them to take a break because you see that they're exhausted and their work performance is suffering. So instead of getting frustrated right off the bat, try to look at a framework. Reframe the frustration that you're feeling. And look at your beliefs. So for me to believe that person is inconsistent in every area of their life and label them as so, versus saying, in this instance, and these last 3 times in this environment, you have been inconsistent. So I want to talk to you about why. That would be a clear way to communicate. And for me to check my belief. My belief does not need to be, you're inconsistent. It needs to be a statement of, I believe in the person, but for some reason, they are not being consistent right now. So also the result, you can say, you can clarify. So if the result isn't clear, the behavior can be modified. So if you as a leader are not clear about what you are expecting and when and how even, then the people under you are they're gonna just make it happen however they think it can be accomplished. And that may not match up with what you desire or how you want it to be completed. So if you look at your beliefs in this instance, you can say, well, I'm going to check my belief at the door along with my ego, and kind of say, this is a person, this is a human, I'm a human, sometimes I get frustrated, sometimes I'm inconsistent. That's another framing tip you can say. So placing yourself in their shoes, and then also framing it to think, okay, when has there been a time that I've been inconsistent? and what was the problem for me. And personally, when I've been inconsistent, I wasn't motivated, or I wasn't committed, or I didn't understand what someone wanted from me. And that does lead to frustration. I mean, have you ever been in in an argument where it's just like, what do you want from me? And then you have it out and it comes out. The nitty gritty comes out and you're like, oh, that's what you wanted. Why didn't you just say so in the beginning? So this little equation is helpful for you to get started with that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause the video and clear my screen here so I can show you another example. Hi there, so I am back. I wanted to pause the video and get some of these frames in view. All right, so we were talking about beliefs and behaviors and results, kind of how they work together on a basic level and how we could reframe our behavior, our belief, or the result by just thinking about it, putting ourselves in the shoes of the person in the example that we were frustrated with, or thinking about a time that we were frustrated and what was missing from another person: direction, clarity, communication, a deadline. So in this case, I want to kind of dive in a little bit more regarding beliefs. So I'm going to take you over to something from my Personal Affirmations class, which is a mini course. It's available for purchase. I'll put the description and everything, the link and everything down below, along with a coupon code. So in this class, very short mini course, it's 20 minutes long. It's not long at all, but it comes with this PDF. And in the PDF, we talk about reframing a belief. So here's how I show people how to do that. Because when you think about changing a belief, it seems like, whoa, this is going to take a long time, or I don't know about that. It's too uncomfortable, or scary, but really it's not. You can inch your way to having a new belief by changing your language, which this course is about affirmations, which has a lot to do with language. But you can also use specific phrases to get you there, till one day you realize, oh my gosh, that word is like totally out of my vocabulary now because I stopped using it, along with different statements. So in the example before this, I was talking about the statement, life is hard. So imagine if you stopped saying life is hard and you reframed it to be the opposite. That would be life is not so hard, or life is easy. Now that may seem like, oh, that's too far. That is just too far. I can't jump that far. So what you would do is you would inch yourself to that statement. So you start at life is hard. You might say something like, I'm learning to deal with life. I'm in the process of understanding the ease of life. I have decided that my life will become easy. So you put it in an active phrase and you open yourself up to those possibilities through your language and by eliminating that passive definitive statement, life is hard. So that's one way that you can do it. But what I want to do is show you how to reframe a belief. So what you do is you take the old belief, the negative feeling, and you identify the opposite, and that will equal what you want. So one of the most common fears is not being enough. That's really a lot of the source of pain and anxiety in the world. Am I going to be enough? So the opposite of that statement would be, I am enough. And then what do you want? Well, I want to be enough. So then you start to think, okay, well, to who? Do I want to be enough to someone, or I just want to feel a certain way with myself? And most of the time, you're going to see that your perception of what other people think and feel towards you or about you is influencing you in having that fear. Okay, so then you need to ask a powerful question. This is step 2 of the reframing. So you identify the action or belief you want now. So if I was going to say the old belief is only other people make money, make a lot of money, then I would change that. And the negative feeling is like, oh, I'll never make enough money. I'll never make a lot of money, let alone enough money. Then you would identify the opposite. So that would be, the belief would be, I am capable of making a lot of money. That's a step. So you notice I didn't say, I didn't jump right to, I am rich. I went a step. And so right now I want to be able to make enough money. So that it's important to note that if you jump too high in your phrasing, it won't be believable and it'll feel really fake for you. I don't know about you, but I just like have a really hard time with fake people. So once I kind of get that vibe, I'm like, I'm out. I gotta do other stuff. I don't have time to deal with people who are not real or are scared of being real, I should say, or authentic. All right, so after you identify the belief and the action you want now, you can even say like, I want to feel good enough now. I want to feel abundant now. I want to feel comfortable in my finances now. So you're starting to kind of open your world up to the feeling. The feelings are really important because if we stay up here, we can talk ourselves out of anything. But once you feel it, you know, in the depth of who you are, or begin to be open to feeling it, you'll see a change. And with that, with our pyramid here, you have to remain consistent. So when you catch yourself saying an old phrase or starting to have an old thought, then just kind of say, thank you, thought, and move on to the next one, the one that you want. You can even say it out loud, or you can say to yourself like, okay, that's an old belief, but the one that I'm adopting and changing into now is this one. And then you can say it. So it's important to talk about now, because now is really all we have. The past has shaped us, yes, and we possibly can aim for a future, but really now is what we need to focus on, because of that dash that I was talking about. We come into the world and then our life happens and then it's our time to go. So in asking the powerful questions, one of them can be, what would I feel like if I believed that statement? Whatever the new belief is, what would I feel like? How does it feel saying it out loud? How does it feel writing it down? So you may start out, and when you write it, it doesn't feel believable. But when you say it, you feel a possibility, or the other way around. You can write it down and it feels believable, or you can say it, whatever. You get my point. So it's important to stick with it. Don't give up because you say an affirmation 10 times and then you think, I'm done. Why can't I manifest this? Why is this not happening? Well, there's a reason they say practice makes perfect practice. Because we have to stick with it. And in this type of work and in the coaching that I do, you're not just memorizing something. You're embodying the statement in tiny increments. And over time, those statements are so embedded, so to speak, into your being. So in epigenetics, the expression of genetics, and in the placebo effect even, it's proven that, your thoughts are pretty darn powerful. So if you believe you're going to get better and you're taking a placebo pill, some people get better. So that's just an example that's pretty old and been around a long time. So imagine if you could commit and be clear and be consistent with changing your language after you've reframed here and you've identified what is that belief that I want. How do I want to feel? Because when I say something like life is hard, I feel really dull and boring. Like, really? I can't solve problems? I don't think so. I want to solve problems and I want to move on to something more adventurous and fun. So, life is hard. That's not good enough for me. I would say life is adventurous. Life is a series of road bumps. Life is a roller coaster. It goes up and down and all around, and I never know what's going to happen, but I got on the darn ride, didn't I? So that statement, life is hard, does not feel good with me. So I would change it to fit more of what feels good to me. It's not denying the truth, Obstacles are hard sometimes. So if I say life has obstacles, but me knowing and having that personal power that I believe I can overcome any obstacle makes it almost a moot point. Okay, so this worksheet in reframing is for writing affirmations, so I will not go any further with that, but I will go over some more powerful questions. So let's say that having the statement of I cannot do math. That's definitive. It's like, no way. Well, at some point, you had to do basic math in school. At some point, you had to add and subtract for your bills. At some point, you had to do some kind of math, right? And if you sought assistance, then that's okay. That gives that person an opportunity to help you and you to make them feel like, oh, they were useful. So having assistance it's not a big deal. But we make it out to be, well, why can't I do this on my own? Well, if you change your language and you ask these powerful questions, then you may be able to. Okay, so I can't do math. Very finite, very passive. So how would you inch yourself out of that belief? And sometimes we have beliefs that are pressed upon us, and we become imprinted almost at an early age with our beliefs. So I think they say by the age of 7, we have most of our core beliefs by then. So we could have been told that we're not good at math, and that's just not even true. I don't know about you, but I hear this phrase all the time. I'm not creative. It's like, it's the worst for me. I hate hearing it because I believe everyone is creative. We're so creative. Now, creative in the sense of visual art or music or whatever, that's a skill. That's a talent, right? But being creative, everyone is. If you've ever made dinner, you have created something. If you've ever put an outfit together for yourself, you've created a look. You've created possibly a outward identity. So I don't believe it. I'm not a believer that people are not creative. That's my belief. So if you are going to inch yourself out of I can't do math, what is a way that you could do that? I'll give you a couple seconds to kind of think. Okay, so one way that I would change my language if I had the belief that I can't do math would be, I'm learning to be good at math. Okay, so I say that out loud. I'm learning to be good at math. It's a little too high for me because I'm not good at math at this point. So what's a question, a powerful question that I can ask? Okay, why do I believe that? Why? Why have I adopted this belief? Why is it with me? And you can probably pinpoint, I mean, sometimes you can pinpoint an event or a grade or a teacher or a person that said that out loud about yourself, about you. Or you can write down events that happen which led you to believe. So let's say in this case that you just got like a ton of bad grades in math. For me, I experienced this in high school, pre-calculus, which shouldn't be that hard. But that year was a really tough year. And the teacher was particularly specific and, like, to me, just too rigid. And my personality is like, whenever I want to do something, I will buckle down and do it. But when I don't want to do something, any rigidity or structure that feels too confining, I have the inclination to rebel. Although I didn't rebel in that class, I now can look back and see that what I needed to do was get a tutor. So I didn't do that. And then I also could have asked the teacher more questions. My fear got in the way of me improving my math by not asking questions during class because I was afraid of what people would think of me. So therefore, I did not do well in pre-cal, but that's okay. I have learned how to do other types of math, and that works for my life. I did not choose a career in math or science, so I'm going to be okay. So I don't have that belief, but if I were to inch myself up and saying I am learning to be good at math was too high, I would say something like, I am open to improving my math skills. So will I actually improve my math skills? I don't know. I could get an app, I could get a tutor, I could do brain games, I could use an area of my life that I really enjoy and try to quantify it or add math to it. Or I could just adopt that statement and let it sit with me for a while and see what happens. So a lot of time when our belief changes, even in a slight manner, we'll find ourselves seeking that information. So once I understood that I wasn't bad at math, I just hadn't developed the skills until a lot later in life, or I didn't ask the right people to assist me, I was able to relieve a bunch of pressure. So who says that I need to be good at math? For my profession and my career, I haven't really had to be great at it, although I did some calculations when I was working in music copyright, but those were very easy to me. So the level of math was also a factor in me having an old belief of I can't do math. It's just not true. So I should say that I did have this belief until a certain age, and then I changed my language and understood and reframed that it was just the type of math that I didn't want to do. I didn't see a use for it, and I haven't used it since. But that doesn't mean I'm not good at all math. So the statement would be, I am open to improving my math skills. And that is an example of how you could change and reframe an old belief into something new and step yourself up. So I'm going to give you some phrases here that you can use to, let me get my pen out, to inch yourself toward a new belief. So if something feels way too high, then it's not going to be believable. And remember what we said about inauthenticity, like ugh, fake, not going to do it. You won't believe it. So you need to inch yourself up. So one of the phrases you can use is, I'm in the process of. Okay, so let's use this for artistic example. Let's say you're starting to explore a new paint medium, a new type of paint that you've never worked with. And in your mind, you hear this thought that you think is going towards a belief like, I'm not good with acrylic paint. Okay, who says? Have you used acrylic paint a lot? Maybe you have determined this, but if you haven't, then really it's just that you're not good yet. That's where that consistency comes in. And also the type of artwork you're trying to make. So for me, when I use acrylic paint, I am not going for realistic. I'm going for playful and patterns and shapes and things. I'm not trying to make a realistic painting. That's what oil paints are for in my world. And I am not a great painter, but I can be if I want to. I have that belief that anything that I consistently commit to and become clear about what I want, I can do, including math. All right, so the phrase is, I'm in the process of. So let's say that you had that statement, I'm not good with acrylic paint. Let's just say that's your phrase and your belief. Okay, a way to inch yourself into it would be, I'm in the process of using acrylic paint, right? Learning the medium of acrylic paint. Or you can say, I'm in the process of trying acrylic paint. So if you really are in that process. So let's say that you wanted to go full throttle here with the acrylic paint. You wanted to go way up. You could say, you can use the word believe. So I believe I will be good with acrylic paint. So this doesn't have a time frame on it. It just says I believe I will. So putting a generic, blanket over it leaves room for you. Now, if you had said, I believe I will be good with acrylic paint by December 1st. For me, this is just me personally, it doesn't feel good. It's like, yeah, right. But that's where I am. So for you, if you started and you say you're like 6 months in and you have a deadline where you will reassess your belief, then go ahead and put a time frame on it. But see how it makes you feel. For me, saying I believe I will be good with acrylic paint, it feels pretty good. It doesn't feel negative, but it doesn't feel like pie in the sky. And I actually do want to work with acrylic paint in more of like an art journaling situation that I find enjoyable. And so yeah, I could get into this belief. So when I catch myself saying this or thinking this, I will make a pivot and commit to going over here and remembering this change that I'm trying to make. Okay, so let's talk about briefly your thoughts and beliefs. So your thoughts that you think over and over and over again, that's what becomes a belief. And remember when I was talking about Remember when I was talking about someone telling you that you're something, and then later on you're like, oh, I believe that now because you were told so many times. Basically, when this happens internally, your thoughts are telling you that you are something, and that's how they become beliefs. So if you can become the observer of your thoughts, and not really have any feelings towards them, so to say, like when the thought comes up, you don't like bash yourself like, stop thinking that. Gosh, why can't you just get it together? Stop thinking that. Instead, just kind of like acknowledge. It can linger a moment, but then it's got to go. You say, okay, thank you. Thank you for that thought. Next, I want to go over to this one. So when this one creeps up, I go over here and I redirect myself. And I notice the feeling. So it's an instant change for me when I say, I'm not good with acrylic paint. That doesn't feel good. It feels almost like anxiety to me. It's like, well, why not? I'm a why person. Like, well, why not? Who says? Who told you that? Because I've trained myself to be very open to new ideas, but also very firm in certain beliefs. So I had told you earlier, when I see an obstacle, I have a belief that I will overcome it no matter what. That's my personal belief. So that belief applies to a lot of behaviors, a lot of responses versus reactions, and therefore results. So remember, I have my course here. In this course, you can really dig into understanding how to create your own personal affirmations, which I do recommend for your goals and your vision in your life. Once you learn to craft these in a specific way that works for you, it becomes easier to have an affirmation practice. A lot of times we go to the internet and we're like, yay, affirmations, and you go and you copy and paste or whatever, you download the thing, then you go to say them out loud and you're like, I don't believe any of this. That's because you have to craft them for yourself, and I have a special technique in this course that you can use to really test it out, having to do with your body. So I hope this has been helpful. Remember to clarify, be consistent, and then commit. Commit to that new belief. Try it on for a little while. Give yourself a time frame and then reassess after a while and see, okay, do I really believe that? Or am I starting to believe that now that I've changed my language, which eventually will impact your behaviors and your results. All right, well, this has been a long one. I hope you're still awake right now. I will see you in the next video. Bye.